So today's session is going to deal with the hiring process. I'm going to talk a little bit about candidate selection and hiring practices. Our communications coordinator, Bridget Nomira, will be giving you a little tour of the website candidate list and how to most effectively work with that. And then our two masters will come on toward the end and give us some perspectives on their hiring practices. Leon Korse from Winningham, Vermont, who's working with his first apprentice who's getting ready to graduate this spring. And then Joe Tamandel, our executive director, who's worked with a total of 4 apprentices, plus a number of other employees. Oops. And then finally, we'll have some discussion at the end. Okay, so as you know, dairy grazing apprenticeship is the first formal registered agricultural apprenticeship in the nation, and as such, we are kind of breaking new ground in a lot of ways. And one of the things that we've tried to do a lot of is help our masters transition into the role of mentor by doing a lot of master discussion groups and other developing other resources for you folks, and we're always willing to develop new materials or provide assistance in any way we can as you take on your first apprentice. The program is very in-depth, and I know we've got a new gentleman from Ohio who isn't familiar with us, so we'll go through this a little bit quickly. It's a 2-year, 4,000-hour formal apprenticeship. The majority of those hours are on-farm paid employment. And then we have a series of online classes that are required. And then we also require some informal peer discussion groups and pasture walks, provide financial planning services. So this is a very comprehensive, complex program, and so therefore it's quite important to start off by choosing someone who is a good fit for your farm and your employee needs. So really, making a good match is probably one of the most important time periods of the whole 2 years, is how you go about identifying the candidate and picking one that's a good fit for your farm and making that the best relationship as possible. So that's why we're spending some time on this whole hiring process. I also wanted to make you aware that, kind of have people think about where the apprentices are coming from and where what their thought process is. And I think if you look across apprenticeship training programs, apprenticeship is kind of a career exploration activity. So it's something that younger people are doing when they're considering making a change. They've already got a career, they want to change it, or maybe they're just starting out. So it's kind of in the nature of apprenticeship to have a high attrition rate. And I just wanted to show you this chart, which is a series of reports about construction trades apprenticeship. So this is not agriculture, it's actually construction, carpentry, and that sort of thing. But if you look at the number of people who washed out or didn't complete the program, you can see that it's pretty high across all apprenticeships. So thinking about that context as we move forward, there's nothing wrong with that. If you decide not to choose a person, or if your apprenticeship doesn't work out, you needn't feel bad about it. It's as hard as we try, there are going to be people who don't make it for a whole variety of reasons. So So having said that, if we do the best job we can at identifying the right person and bringing them on in a good way, we're more likely to be successful. So there are a bunch of ways that you can go about starting your search for an apprentice. The BGA website takes apprentice candidates. They can sign up right online, and right now we've got over 150 candidates on the list. So that's one place that you can look, and Bridget will be talking more about that later. You can do your own advertising locally for an apprentice or an employee. You can bring on an existing employee. If you've got somebody who's management material and they've been with you a long time and you want to just kind of formalize and create a structured training program, you can do that also with a family member as well. And then our education coordinators, who each of you have involved in your area, can also help you by helping you sort through candidates or sending you candidates that they think might be a good fit for you. And then you can take a look at our tip sheet series. We've got a whole large number of tip sheets that we've developed. They're available on our website. If you log into the website, it's on the left-hand side, there's a tab for master resources, and they're all listed there. They're PDF files that you can print off. And we'll be going through some of those today. So in order to develop a hiring process, here are some of the steps that you might want to consider taking as you get started looking for an apprentice. So the first one would be identifying the duties, qualifications, work hours, and pay. Then you would select candidates that you wanted to interview, develop an interview process, conduct those interviews, and then go back and compare the candidates and how they did in the interviews before you make a final selection. This tip sheet, the Finding the Right Apprentice, kind of walks you through those steps. You might want to start with a job description. So one of our tip sheets is a dairy farmer job description, and this is a generic one that we put together. But think about what you do, what your job is, and think about the fact that we're training people to be dairy farmers. So one of the reasons why we've made the program as comprehensive as we have is we'd like the apprentices, as they come out of the program, to be to know all that they need to know to get into dairy farming. So that's pretty broad, but you can start by thinking about what you do on the farm every day and what you want your apprentice to come to the into the job with already, the skills you want them to already have, and then what you're willing and interested in teaching them. So we also ask our masters frequently what they would like to see in an apprentice, in addition to having specific physical or management type skills. These are some of the qualities that masters frequently tell us they're looking for. So somebody who's self-driven, self-managed, a team player, someone with life expectancy, experience, and maturity, a commitment to learn, interpersonal skills. Some want somebody with similar values to yours, a realistic view of farming, and then problem solving and critical thinking skills. These are a number of the skills that or the characteristics, the features that some of our masters are looking for. And frequently they don't necessarily want dairy farming skills in particular, but a level of life experience and maturity and the ability to and interest in learning. So those are some of the things, in addition to specific things that you want your apprentice to have when they come on board. Think about these more qualitative qualities that you're looking for as well. Okay, selecting candidates to interview. So before reviewing the applicants, like I said, identify your minimum requirements and desired skills based on your job analysis that you did. Then you might want to prioritize those requirements. Some of them may be more important than others. If you want somebody with experience with skid steers and tractors, maybe that's more important than livestock experience, or vice versa. And then consider developing a standardized ranking worksheet that you can use to compare your candidates. So we've got this worksheet that we've created that's on the website that you can use, and you can see it's got several different versions of this chart. One of them, this one on the front, is actually just an example of a filled out one where we created a list of criteria plus a few additional ones that we wanted these fictitious candidates to have. And then we've got 4 candidates that we're looking at, and we went through and ranked them from 0 to 5 in each of these qualifications based on what they said in their profile. So that way you can see which ones end up standing out and having more of the qualities that you need. So that's kind of an objective way of kind of sorting through people and identifying which ones are the most likely to fit your needs. We've also got versions of this same chart that have these particular questions in them that have the candidate sections blank, so you can use, and then we've got one that's entirely blank that you can make up your own criteria and your own ranking system if you'd like to use that. Okay, when you get ready to select candidates to interview, here's a process that is recommended by a lot of human resources folks. Some things that aren't in the website as it is, but consider requesting and checking references. That's a standard hiring process. We don't have an actual resume on the website, so consider requesting one. Not all candidates will have one, but that's another way that you can evaluate how they present themselves and how they communicate. Consider conducting background checks, and I think Joe will probably talk about this a little bit more because that's something that he routinely does. And then maybe consider, if you've got a number of candidates that you're considering, think about a 2-step interview process. So maybe an initial interview that you could do by phone or in person with a standardized set of questions that you use on all of them, so you can kind of do a comparison. And then have the final 1 or 2 candidates come and work with you for a while. A number of our masters have found this really successful, and other ones who haven't tried it just wish they had thought of it, because it's a way of really learning a lot more about the candidate and learning how you get along and some of the kind of soft skills or qualitative things that you wouldn't get out of a formal interview process. Okay, and then reviewing your candidates. Consider reviewing potential candidates initially for the background experience that catches your eye, and start with them, or something unique about them that you really think would work well for you, or that catches your interest. Start with those. Sort your potential candidates into those meeting your requirements and those that don't. And Bridget will be sharing some practices on how to search and hide and star candidates in a little bit. Rank the ones that meet your minimum requirements based on those prioritized requirements that you created earlier on. What do you need them to start with, and what are you willing to teach them? And then also consider some of these other traits, the kind of qualitative traits, such as dependability, positive attitude, eagerness to learn. And then identify your top 2 to 4 candidates to interview. Now, these tip sheets will help you set up a interview process if you haven't done employee interviews in the past, or maybe you just need a brush up. So this first one kind of provides a set of general guidelines and some advice and suggestions on what questions to ask and how to frame them. And then we have these worksheets where you can either use the pre-existing questions that we put into them, or there's some blank pages where you can make up your own questions. And that's intended to be something that you could create one for each applicant and then take some notes as you're talking with them, and get some information on them that you can compare across candidates. Okay, some general guidelines. A job interview, a lot of us may not have gone through a job interview in years, or maybe even decades in some cases. But, you know, think about the job interview as a two-way process. You know, as I started out this discussion, we talked about how important it is to make a good match and to have this be a good fit. So you really want it to be a two-way process, and you want both parties to make sure it's a good fit with their plans and goals. And plan on spending a couple of hours and have some time to let the discussion go where it leads. Start by telling the candidate about yourself and your farm, and if they're on the farm, give them a tour. That's all part of them identifying whether this is a good fit for them. If you have that job description, share that with them. And then have a prepared set of questions. So if you're interviewing more than one person, you make sure you ask all of them the same questions so you can better compare them. Give the candidates a chance to ask questions of you. This is something that, you know, it not only allows them to assess the situation for themselves, but you can really learn a lot from a candidate about what kinds of questions they ask and where, you know, it kind of tells you where they're coming from and what their interests are. At the end of the interview, let them know what your decision-making process will be and when to expect, when they can expect to hear from you. And then consider some follow-up interview steps, such as having them come out and work with you for a weekend if they seem to be a good fit for your operation. Okay, interview questions. We'll get to the ones that you can't legally ask later, but right now, you know, think about asking questions about their goals in applying for the job and the apprenticeship. What are their long-term career goals, and how does this step fit in with those? You can ask them general questions about their background and experience they would bring to the job, and how they see their background, even if it's not in farming, is fitting in with your needs. Ask some questions about how they deal with challenges and opportunities, such as what was the most valuable feedback you received on a job, and how did you handle it? What did you do about it? Or you can ask questions that will help you understand how they get along with others, such as, have you ever been in a situation with someone who you found hard to get along with, and how did you deal with it? So framing some of those kind of very specific questions that allows them to give you an example of something that will give you a broader understanding of their character and their ability to cope with and handle challenges and other situations that they may encounter on your farm. Okay, some more suggested interview questions. So you can ask questions that will tell you how they will approach the learning situation, which is probably one of the most important things in an apprenticeship. Can ask something like, tell me about something new that you learned to do in the past and how you went about learning that new task. Or you can ask specific questions about some of the kinds of responsibilities they'll have on your farm. Describe your experience working with livestock. What would you do to detect a calf that is sick, for example? And then make sure you describe your farm's working conditions, work schedule, and the flexibility of the schedule, and ask them if they're able to work that schedule. I've run into masters who have been surprised when an applicant came to work on the first day and thought that a full-time job on a farm was 40 hours a week, you know, Monday through Friday. So be sure you're very clear on what your work schedule is, how many hours are expected of this person in their full-time job. Okay, so questions that you cannot legally ask. So you cannot ask questions about an individual's race, religion, politics, their marital status, family, any of those things. But you can ask questions that help you explore beyond just the work situation and their work experience. So consider asking questions, you know, framing your questions around some of these examples. Like, if another employee is sick, would you be able to fill in on short notice? Do you have a reliable method of getting to work? And questions about hobbies and what they like to do in their spare time. Those are all fair game and can help you understand a little bit more about the individual as a whole person and their family life and that sort of thing. Things that can influence how they'll fit into your farm, but aren't things that you can directly ask. And so there's always a way of kind of getting at some of those sensitive issues, but please don't ask those specific questions which are not really legal to ask of an applicant. Okay, and then here's the candidate comparison sheet that's available for you on the website. So it has spaces for 3 candidates. There's a page that has these kind of pre-identified questions, and there's also a blank one if you want to come up with your own interview questions. So the process that you might want to consider is once you've gone through the interview process, go through this kind of comparison, bring maybe that one best candidate out for a visit to the farm and a weekend working with you, and then choose your best candidate. And you can actually hire them directly through the website using the hire message function, or you can contact your education coordinator and we can link you directly on the website for you. And then once you've done that, of course, you'll have your visit from the education coordinator, and all the paperwork will be done and you'll be on your way. On the next webinar, we're going to talk about that first week with your new apprentice and some suggestions and steps on how to get them onboarded and oriented in the best way. So that's all I have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we'll turn things over to Bridget to talk a little bit about the website and how to use that. So Bridget, you ready? And you're muted, Bridget.
Oops. All right. Can you
There we go.
on screen and hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So we're signed in with the mock master account that we use for training purposes, and sometimes they make videos for people, short little videos on how to do specific things. So since we're here, I'm just going to show you real quick the master application. If you haven't updated this since we migrated to the new website, you will want to go in there and do this. There are a couple new questions on herd size, pasture acreage, and whether or not you're certified organic. If you haven't updated it, those will be blank, and this will default to no. So you'll want to go in there and make sure that information is correct. Then you'll want to go in and make sure that your settings are set the way you want, whether you're seeking or not, intern or apprentice, and what kind of notifications you want, whether just of people wanting to relocate or people who, wherever they want to go, you'll get a notice of any new applicants. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, and while you're doing your searches, that will help people get the correct information about your farm and help you get the candidates that you want. So there are a few ways to search for an apprentice. We'll start with going through the list here. It's set, the default is to all apprentices, pre-apprenticeship or internship, and the chronological. I had already done this earlier today, so these are showing up. This is everybody. Anytime a candidate makes an update and resaves their application, they get bumped up on the chronological. There are some good candidates that, applied a while ago. Maybe, the master list has changed a little bit. And we do encourage them to go back, keep things up to date if they have new experience or new classes, or to check out new masters that might be closer to where they want to do an apprenticeship. So if you want to narrow down this list and not look at everybody, you can choose people who have chosen to relocate to your zip code area. Any candidate that has chosen a zip code area in your state, and just the ones who have said yes, they want to relocate. And we've changed that a little bit. For new people applying, they can choose not only within the state, but they can choose within the region. We've grown a lot, so we have a few more options for them to choose how far they want to go. Relocate means different things to different people, so we're trying to get that to be more useful for you guys. This can be chronological or alphabetical. So we'll start with my prefix. And you can see here as you scroll down the list, this is where they are located. Some people are closer than others. Person from Alabama, Minnesota. I've got a Wisconsin zip code here in Hudson. And this is just the introductory information that they put in there, but you can click on any of these to see their full profile. What they're looking for, their education, their experience, their goals, their motivation. Over here, if you prefer to kind of go through the paper versions and not spend too much time on the website, you can always download a PDF report. You can star a person to find them later on your dashboard, or you can send them a message to get a conversation started. And any message that is sent through the website will go out to their outside either email or text, depending on what they chose. I'll give them a little notice to sign in order to respond. And that kind of just, we don't vet these people. I mean, we vet them in that they are actual people and not bots. But other than that, we don't vet them. And so we want to protect the masters. And you can kind of, as you feel more comfortable, share more information about your farm or have them call you directly. some masters just want to cut to the chase and will say, oh, give me a call if you're interested and send their phone number. But that is kind of up to you. So if you want to narrow down further, you could look for keyword. If someone who has a animal science or dairy science education, I saw that was one of the questions or one of the things in Laura's interview tip sheet. In my zip code prefix, there is this one person with a science degree who's chosen my zip code prefix, that is. So I'm going to star her too. Okay, if you want to expand, you can go out to anyone interested or anyone in your state. You can keep that same keyword. That'll pull up a few more people. You can lose the keyword, and this will show you, this shows me everybody who's chosen a location, a zip code area within my state. Okay. If you are not, you want to bring people in, you're not really interested in someone who's far away, or in kind of casting a broad net for anyone who, because there are people who click a whole bunch or say they're willing to go anywhere. You can look for someone who's more local to you by using the map. And if you're someone who really wants to meet someone in person, have them come out, this might be a good way to narrow that down. This has not the area that they chose, but the area where they are. So, if we zoom out a little bit, we see that we've got candidates applying from all over the place, right? But I'm in Wisconsin, and I kind of want to bring people in, and so I'm going to look and see who's a little closer. And if you click on, whoops, if you click on an area, you can see the people who live in that zip code area. From there, there's Shauna again, who I already starred. You can star someone to see them later. Open up to get their profile, what they've chosen. Okay. So those are just, some quick tips for making the most of this list. I know it can seem, it's a lot of people, and like I say, we don't vet them. We try to give you tools. All the masters are kind of looking for different things. Some people, like Laura was saying, the equipment experience. Some people have a passion for the animals. Some people want a clean slate. Some people want some, person who can come in at a higher level. So we are trying to ask the right questions and then give you the tools that you need in order to find someone who's a good match.
Bridget, you might want to mention the hide feature. I found that to be a huge help.
Oh, yes, the hide feature. I know who I want to hide. Thank you, Lauren. Okay. Or Leon. Okay, so yes, if you are, if there's someone who keeps popping up in your searches, you really don't want to see them anymore, or you've had that interview and they're not going to work for you anymore, or they're not going to work, they're just not a person that you want to show up, go ahead and hide them. And they won't be coming up in your list anymore. Okay. So when I go to my dashboard, you can see these are here's my favorites. There's Shauna, who I recently starred. I can unstar her if I want, I think. Can I unstar her? Yeah. Then she'll just go back to the regular list. Maybe I unstar her because, you know, it's not going to work for her schedule. She's not going to graduate for another year. I'm looking for someone now. I don't really want to hide her because I think she's a strong candidate, but I can unstar her and she'll just go back to the list. So any other recommendations, Liam, for using this?
No, I think you've done a good job explaining it.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, and you can always contact me with questions, or if you're having trouble signing in, or if you want to get your application updated, things like that. I think I can just stop sharing. Is that correct, Laura? By clicking on this?
Yes, you can. Yep.
If there aren't any questions.